Parshas Balak, Tavshinai Vav. First, before we begin, we want to welcome all the chashuv guests here tonight. It is our honor, great honor, to have these guests here. They want to go anonymous, so we won't mention the names, but it's really wonderful to see the people here. Now, Parshas Balak is one of those weeks where, when you read this parsha, no matter how many times you read it, every year, you're just blown away by what's going on. From blessing, cursing, animals talking, so many different things happening from so many different angles, and every one of these angles is actually difficult to understand. And in the Nesivos Shalom's beautiful way, how do we come to understand what's going on in this parsha? We bring a pasuk from the Haftarah. The Haftarah of this week's parsha, Parshas Balak, states, Ami Zecharno Mayot Balak Melech Moav. Remember, and I guess it's important that we remember, and we'll see why soon. Remember what Balak Melech Moav wanted to do to you. Uma'ona oisoi Bilam ben Ba'ar. And what Bilam answered to Balak's request. L'ma'andas tzidkos Hashem. To see the great chesed and the great tzidkos of Hashem, we needed Hashem's help in the worst way at that moment, our Mefarshim tell us. And the Zohar, on this episode, in Parshas Balak, tells us, Lo havu yoimin min yoima de isberi alma. There was not a day from the day that the world was created. The itztrech hachi lemeve kutsha berichu b'hadai Yisrael. There was not a day from the creation of the world that Klal Yisrael needed HaKadosh Baruch Hu more kehahu zimna deba bilam. Of course, the Sanein Yisrael is a euphemism. Klal Yisrael, from time immemorial, from the first day of creation, never needed HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It was a bigger ace tzara for Klal Yisrael. This moment that Balak wanted Bilam to curse Klal Yisrael, this moment was an ace tzara to Klal Yisrael like no other time in history. It was even greater than Mitzrayim. It was greater than the danger that they had at the Yam Suf. And it was also greater than the time of the Egel. This moment. So if we're going to say that at this moment, Klal Yisrael needed HaKadosh Baruch Hu more than at any other time, there must be something very, very unique about the dynamics of what was going on at this moment between Balak and Bilam. And then Nesivos Shalom says that really we need to understand the request that Balak had from Bilam. Balak asked Bilam, come and curse Klal Yisrael. What does an actual cursing of people mean? What is Kalala? And if you want to know what Kalala is, you need to know the opposite. You need to know the good side of it. What actually is bracha? What represents bracha and kalala? And we know, says the Nesivos Shalom, that as long as Klal Yisrael is totally connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no nation, no enemy, no entity at all can do anything negative to Klal Yisrael. If we are absolutely davuk b'Hashem, if we are close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no person can do anything to Klal Yisrael either. And anything that happens with an enemy or someone that has something against Klal Yisrael, it is happening because we are not totally connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Yesod HaAvodah brings from the Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim that we have mentioned in the past. And the Moreh Nevuchim, the Rambam mentions that when a Yid is connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no dinim, no midas hadin can happen to the person. The problem begins when It begins even for great people. The problem begins when it begins to have a little crack in the foundation, when there's a bit of a separation between a Yid and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a little separation in your Dveikus B'Hashem. That's when outside forces are able to have some kind of influence on your life. And that, says the Nesivos Shalom, is really the definition of bracha and klala. You know what bracha is? Bracha is when you are totally connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a complete connection. While klala, on the other side, klala is when we have any amount, and certainly when we have a great separation between ourselves and Avinu Shabbat And Bilam knew this. Nesivos Shalom says this is what the key, this is why they needed Bilam. Bilam knew this very fact. We know that Bilam was a great Navi. And as good as Moshe Rabbeinu was, as great as Moshe Rabbeinu was, Bilam was close to that. He was close to that great in a negative way, in a bad way. And the objective of the life of Moshe Rabbeinu was one objective, to create a closeness between Klal Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The goal of Bilam Harasha was, to the contrary, was exactly the opposite of Moshe Rabbeinu. The goal of Bilam Harasha was to cut the line of connection between a Yid and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is why Balak sent Dafka for Bilam, because Bilam was that smart. Bilam was that connected. Bilam had that understanding. Balak himself, says the Nesivos Shalom, and the Mefarshim bring down, Balak himself was a bigger sorcerer. He knew more kishuf. He knew more about all these things than Bilam. But Bilam had the direct opposite of Moshe Rabbeinu. And Klal Yisrael was being led by Moshe Rabbeinu. They were under the influence of what Moshe Rabbeinu wanted. Bilam was exactly the opposite. Bilam was the only one who knew the real way to get Klal Yisrael in trouble. The real way was to cut off their relationship and their closeness with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Gemara Masechta Sanhedrin, Daf Kuf Hey Amud Beis, tells us that from the brachos that Bilam ultimately gave to Klal Yisrael, we see the negative things he really wanted to say. Now we know, you read through the Parsha, you see that what came out of Bilam's mouth were these beautiful blessings for Klal Yisrael. But we all know that was not Bilam's intention. But it doesn't say in the Torah what Bilam really wanted to say. So the Gemara in Sanhedrin tells us, you know how you figure out what Bilam really wanted to say? Look at the brachas that he gave. We know that Bilam wanted to enumerate, he wanted to mention, to be Mekatreg of Klal Yisrael. Bilam wanted to mention the Chatoim of Klal Yisrael in order to separate them from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so he would be able to go ahead and curse Klal Yisrael. Yet, the other way, he said exactly the opposite. The Torah tells us, like Hibit Oven B'Yaakov, that Kaviyachol, and we've spoken about this in previous years, we can't get into it now, but in this way, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is able to, in a only godly-like way, look away, so to speak, from what Klal Yisrael does. Hashem, so to speak, Kaviyachol does not see actual averos that a person does. And we explained in short, the short of it is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always connected to us, always connected to every Yid, to every individual, no matter what you are doing. That's how he explained, like Hibit Oven B'Yaakov, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't ever remove himself from someone's life. And so on and so forth, with each of the things that Bilam said. Through the entire episode, we see that it went this way. Now, the Nesivos Shalom says one more beautiful thing, which is a lesson that we really have to take out of the Parsha. Bilam saw something else in Klal Yisrael. Bilam saw, when he looked at Klal Yisrael, he saw that Klal Yisrael was shoichein l'shvata. Bilam saw that Klal Yisrael had an unusual thing, and that thing was called achdus. They were b'leiv echad ke'ish echad. And therefore, the Chazal tell us that when Bilam saw that, he was not able to do anything to Klal Yisrael. So the Nesivos Shalom explains that, and he tells us, the Pasuk says, V'yohavto l'reacha kamoicha, ani Hashem. We all know what V'yohavto l'reacha kamoicha means. It is followed by ani Hashem. And listen to this beautiful drasha. Zok the Nesivos Shalom. V'yohavto l'reacha kamoicha, ani Hashem tells us that when we are together, looking out for each other, then ani Hashem. When we have V'yohavto l'reacha kamoicha, the pasuk continues and tells us what the result is. When we are ba'achdos, and we're not fighting with each other, and we're not arguing with each other, and we're not making fun of each other, and when we actually love each other like we love ourselves, V'yohavto l'reacha kamoicha, then ani Hashem. The way that we've mentioned, Avas Chaverim, brings a person to Avas Hashem. So when Bilam saw how connected we are to each other, he understood that we must also be connected to Hashem. And he was only able to give them a bracha. Ma toivu oyalecha Yaakov. And what was that bracha, says in Nesivos Shalom? He was seeing the places that we get together. Chazal tell us, Ma toivu oyalecha Yaakov, mishkanoisecha Yisrael, that Bilam was noticing the batei midrashos and batei knesiyos, where we gather together to learn Torah and to daven. That's what Bilam saw. That was so unusual. The achdos, that we get together, the places, the shuls, the beis medrash, the places where we all get together, and we're there together, and we're there pulling for each other. That is what Bilam saw. Being connected to each other, and then because of that, now we're also connected to Hashem. That is the conduit for bracha. So when Bilam saw that, that's what changed everything. Yes, he had in mind nasty things. He wanted to curse Klal Yisrael. But when he saw that, he understood that we are connected to Hashem. And like we said at the beginning of the shir, the connection to Hashem is what creates bracha. Now we saw there's no other way. There's no crack, there's no separation. They have Avas Chaverim, and therefore they have Avas Hashem. So people run around, and they run everywhere, and they want brachas, and it's a wonderful thing to run around and get brachas from Gedolim, brachas for Parnasa, brachas for Shidduchim, brachas for peace and harmony and everything else. But the bottom line is the Torah is telling us here how you get brachas. You stay connected to Hashem, and the way to stay connected to Hashem is be connected to your peers. Be connected to other human beings. Be connected, have Avas Chaverim, V'yohavto l'reacha kamoicha, ani Hashem. It goes hand in hand together. And when that is all working together, Avas Chaverim, Avas Hashem, there's only one thing that could exist, and that is bracha. And that is what happened in our Parsha, and that is the lesson that we need to learn from the Parsha.